think the biggest thing that we recognized is, one, the group that got us there was incredible. And it was like by brute force, people that were just going to grind and literally do as we did. But there was a moment of like, if we want to get to where we're going, Jimmy, Jake, and Jordan can't be the ones that lead us. Like, we need to get people in that are smarter than us, that know things that we don't know. And that was actually really empowering to say, hey, like, let's go out and find the best that culturally will align with our values and our beliefs, but also can enhance what we don't know.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Just let go. We have Jordan, Jake, and Jimmy DeCicco, the Super Coffee brothers, on the show today. This is an unmatched story that you have to hear. I'm a proud consumer of Super Coffee, but also a proud investor. Jordan started the company out of his dorm room, out of necessity, and now the brothers have built a $400 million company. This has happened super fast. They're first-time entrepreneurs, and they share everything in this episode, from the hard times, which in the beginning, they, of course, had their fair share of hard struggles, but they still do to this day, even though they have investors like J-Lo and A-Rod. They're doing very, very well, but they're very honest about what it's like to be an entrepreneur in general. Now, clearly, I love the product. It speaks for itself. Super Coffee gives me that energy, that positive energy in the morning. There's no sugar, tastes good. I could go on and on. But another thing that I really love, and one of the reasons I invested in the company, is because of the brothers and their support of female leadership. They really walk the talk, and they share exactly how they're doing this in the episode. You will love the dynamic between the three brothers. It's so fun. And Super Coffee is hooking up Why Not Now listeners with an exclusive 25% discount on all products. There are no restrictions. Just head to drinksupercoffee.com and use code WHYNOTNOW for your 25% discount. So drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount will work on all products. Just use Why Not Now for your code. Without further ado, here are Jordan, Jake, and Jimmy DeCicco.
Welcome to the Why Not Now show, boys.
Good morning.
It's so good to be here in person, we're in Austin, Texas. I'm so excited for this conversation too. So let's hop in the spirit of Why Not Now. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself the question, why not now? And we can dissect that day, minute, hour, season, and we'll kind of take a look under the hood, figure out how you went from idea to action.
Let's do it. I think the inflection point of idea to action was our first summer. Jake and I were living together. We were just coming up with a business plan. We were thinking about how this business could actually stand up and operate. He was getting ready for his senior season at Georgetown University. I was getting ready to go back for my sophomore season. And we kind of looked at each other and we were like, hey, like, this is really hard, like a lot harder than we thought this would be. And if I go back to school in Philly and you play your season, your senior season of football. There's no way that this is going to work out. And all the work that we just put in is going to be for nothing. And I kind of looked at Jake and I was like, I think I'm going to drop out. I was like, I think I'm going to go all in here. And literally probably asked the question, why not? And we kind of ran the pros and cons. And ultimately, I think we made the right choice. And a lot of people thought that I dropped out because the business was doing so well, but it was the exact opposite. It was just, we were working 20 hours a day. We couldn't afford to go back to school at that point. And from there, we were able to get Jim on board quickly after.
It was pretty nuts because Jordan made that decision and giving up a full basketball scholarship. Like, that's a lot for a kid that lived, breathed, died basketball, all conference player, dropping out. And I was getting ready to go back to double session. So he's like, all right, like today's the day, I'm going to let mom know. And him and Jim had been talking, and I think sent Jim like a really nice formal email. And I'm like, just call Jim before you call mom. I got to go to practice. And I leave practice and I have all these missed calls from my mom. And I call her back, and of course she's upset, but she says, what the hell did you do? Jimmy's quitting his job and Jordan's dropping out of school. It's like, I didn't know Jimmy was quitting his job.
All at once. Yeah. Mom. Wow. So that's funny that you said that, Jordan, though, about it wasn't that things were just flying high and you were, this unicorn. You were actually realizing, why not now? It is either now or probably never. Mm-hmm. Yet you had spent all of your lives as athletes and specifically full ride scholarship. So that conversation as a family is a little different because you probably want to have your best interest in mind as humans and brothers, but then you've got this business. So here you are. I mean, the numbers are insane, right? You're a $400 million company now. You've got a lot of things in play, but that 0 to 1 versus the 1 to 100 that we always hear about is like, those are the good stories, right? So when you look back at those days and you think about the hard moments, were there times where you just wanted to call it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times early on, especially. But I think, some of the advice that we give entrepreneurs starting out is you got to be super passionate about it because it is going to be so hard. No matter what you're doing, it's going to be really hard. And for us, physically hard. We were doing our own manufacturing early on because we couldn't get a manufacturer to make the product for us. We couldn't get distributors, so we were doing our own distribution. So we were waking up 4 a.m. We had just produced maybe 12 hours straight, getting on the road, doing deliveries, and then we'd have to come back that weekend and pour samples just to introduce it and market the product. So it was just a lot of physical work early on, very labor intensive. And you don't see that return. I mean, yes, you're getting sales, but a lot of the feedback is actually negative early on. It's like, this product sucks. Like, what are you guys thinking? And then it's like, well, at least we can improve it. And we were so excited about it. And that's what kind of kept us going. It's like, oh, well, maybe 1 out of every 5 people love it. And that's like the energy that fuels us to keep going.
I think that, the one add-on for me is like, we didn't have a choice. I think a lot of people who start the side hustle, they still have a full-time job, and if they lose enthusiasm or steam or it becomes too difficult, they're like, look, I tried it. I stuck my foot in the water. And for us, like, I gave up a career on Wall Street. Jordan gave up a full scholarship. And I mean, that's the reason, one of the main reasons we were all in, we didn't have a choice but to win. But at the same time, like, that could have gone the other way too. Like when a founder puts it all on the line like that, they may be pressed to make bad decisions to keep the mission moving. Mm-hmm. Thankfully for us, like, we never really pivoted, but to Jordan's point, evolved, iterated, tweaked it along the way. And that vision of mass producing positive energy has always stayed true.
Yeah, but one unique thing that you've talked about in the early days, Jim was responsible for raising money. And it's very different trying to raise money, obviously, when you have no concept.
No
Jordan
data.
and I were, so we're
it's going to be great.
Promise.
But you mentioned early on some of the most difficulties was like imposter syndrome of like, I'm supposed to go in and assure you that your money is going to be good. Like, and it just was so tough.
I was just going to ask you about imposter syndrome. So this is perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's so real because like, you don't have a track record, you don't have a resume, you don't have a reputation and
experience in the industry.
Nothing. Yeah. I mean, our mom worked at the Y, our dad was a construction worker. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. I studied philosophy and played football, but the one thing we knew was how to work hard. Our whole lives, we were sort of undersized athletes and we had to work harder than our teammates and our competitors to sort of get to where we wanted to be. And that resonated with people. You know, people who saw that hustle, they didn't care whether we were selling coffee or widgets or technology. They're like, these guys are going to figure something out, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to lose. Like, I don't know about coffee. I don't know about the industry, but like, I like these guys. And now today, as we go out to raise bigger rounds, that type of hustle that enabled us to raise in the early days has what is led to this great data story. Like, we can prove now, like, we got better numbers than competitors. You know, this is a big market. We're making an actual impact. So that story has shifted over the last 5 years.
Yeah. And I think one thing about the imposter syndrome too was that which I actually think we avoided, is that we were just so in it. Like, we were in the mud every single day. And what I mean by that, again, we were doing our own manufacturing, our own distribution, pouring our own samples, stocking shelves all day, every day. Yeah. And it's like, if somebody said, do you ever get that early on? I'd say, no. I mean, we're working 20 hours a day. Like, there's no way. Where when we were at Georgetown, we participated in a summer launch program, and that question came up, and a lot of entrepreneurs were like, yeah, we kind of feel that way. Like, cause we're like creating business plans and we're like thinking about this business that doesn't exist. So it's like, you have to go out at some point. Like, that's the inflection point. Just go out, try it, do it. And then it becomes real really quickly.
Yeah. And I think that is what really helped us, and where doing something novel and creative and disruptive helps you, because, and you always said this, is we became the foremost experts on doing this, you know, so that really replaces that imposter syndrome, because no one really had a playbook to do what we were doing. And then once we kind of got 6 months in, a year in, 2 years in, it's like, we actually know more about trying to disrupt the ready to drink coffee industry than anyone else.
Right.
And then that goes away. It's like, hey, we're the ones pioneering this new wave of zero sugar, better for you coffee. And then that starts to snowball, and then you get a team behind you who believes in that momentum. And then it kind of just starts pushing itself forward.
Being able to design my own day and do it in the most efficient way is a non-negotiable for me. I'm a bit of a time management nerd, so when I find something that allows me to be more efficient and effective to get the most out of my day, I want to share it with everyone. I want you to head to monday.com/AJM, because here's the scoop. I have a new tool in my productivity tool belt, and it's called Monday. Monday.com. My team and I have never felt more organized, professionally and personally. And my to-do list is no longer the boss of me. I feel more in control because every project, initiative, date, task, they're all captured and organized in one place. And my team is in the loop and involved every step of the way. Monday.com/AJM is where you can find your brand new operating system. Everything has its own home, deadline. You can see the team members associated with the tasks, and it's even color coordinated, so you can easily navigate your own task list. It's amazing. So we all have multifaceted jobs, businesses, and lives. With Monday, you're able to keep all of these components organized in their own compartments. But you're also only one click away from seeing the big picture and how they all integrate together. Creating systems and procedures within your day in business saves a lot of time. For example, my team and I have a dedicated board for this very podcast. Did you know there are 28 steps involved in getting one podcast just to air? It's the same exact process every time, and it's a system. And we have the various key steps mapped out, and they're set up as tasks on our podcast board. And this allows for my team and I to stay in lockstep every step of the way. I've even noticed a decrease in emails and meetings since we started using Monday. So you can head to monday.com/AJM and check out how I use it. One feature I love is that my social media content calendar is built inside of monday.com. I finally have one that I actually use. I like it, and it's embedded into my overall calendar as well. Another feature we use every day is the Google Doc integration. You know, I love a good spreadsheet. I can pull them into monday.com and edit them right there versus having 97 tabs open on my computer. If how we spend our days is how we spend our lives, then I can't think of anything more important than using the time in our days wisely. Head to monday.com/AJM to start your free trial today. That's monday.com/AJM, which is short for Amy Jo Martin, if that's how you need to remember it. And you'll see how I use it, what's in it for you, and that's where you get your free trial. So if you start using Monday, hit me up on social media. Let me know how you're using it, what your experience is like, and we can swap tips and tricks. I wish I had started using it sooner.
Fresh eyes, I think oftentimes they just make room for innovation, and you just don't know what you don't know. And that's okay, because the old school template has been done and you can go look that playbook up. But for those of you listening, make sure to check out my intro. So if you skipped past it, you have to go back, because I'm sharing some of the early day story. But I want to leapfrog a little bit of that because, you've shared that before. I want to get into some things that maybe you don't talk as much about. One of the reasons, as I mean, you all know, you hear me talk about Super Coffee a lot. As an investor, fell in love with your product first, then started learning more about you. And a long time ago, someone gave me some advice in terms of, especially early stage, but that's not where we are now, is you think of investments as like a surfing situation, right? You've got a surfer, and that's founder or founders. The surfboard, it's a product. And then the wave is the market trend, the whatever is happening, that dynamic. And so as athletes, it's pretty smart as an investor to bet on athletes, in my opinion, because you understand hustle. And from what I understand is you started hiring some of your friends because you knew their work ethic, you knew them. You've been on the court, on the field together. And did you look around one day and say, oh shit, we all look the same?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do about this? So tell me about that moment. Was it really kind of like because I've been there on the opposite side with a company where I looked around and like, oh, everybody looks a lot like me.
Yeah, I mean, I think early on, we didn't really have a choice because we couldn't really hire anybody else who was willing to do so much work for so little pay. But our friend's passion and energy, like my college roommate who you met last night is now our VP of sales, but because he worked his way up the same way we did. So he learned so much about the ins and outs of the industry. And early on, we found ourselves, just naturally bringing on people who shared the same passion for the product, for the brand, had the energy, and were willing to put in the work. But then, there was definitely a moment where Jim kind of paused everything and said, wait a minute, we got to figure this out if we're going to really scale this thing. If you want to touch on that moment.
How did you arrive there?
Yeah. So, because in the early days, we weren't thinking about building a company. We were thinking about getting a job done, right? It's like, we got to stock shelves. We got to sell product. We got to make deliveries, right? And this is hard work. Who do we want to do this with us? Like, if it's 4th and 1 with 2 seconds left on the clock, I know who I'm picking.
Yep.
And with that, I mean, we got a good group of guys and girls together. Marina, Georgetown soccer player, awesome team, just running hard. And 2018 was the year. So about 3 years in, we were heading into our Series A. We knew we were going to raise $15 million, scale from 5 million in sales to 25 million. Hire a team from 15 employees to 50 employees all within a year. I'm like, we got to lay a foundation, right? Because it's all good people, right? And it wasn't really nepotism. It was more like, we know you guys, you want to work with us, and the best player plays. Because there's some people who were with us in the early days who are no longer with us, right? For whatever reasons, whether they didn't like the work or they weren't cut out for it. And now today we're in a position where we can attract talent. And what we do, we believe in not having diversity to check a box, but having diversity because Super Coffee's for everybody. And to reach everybody, we need diverse opinions in every single meeting we have, from territory sales managers to C-level executives. But that same bias toward athlete or competitor still holds true. Our CMO, who Tori Hanna, she won 4 national championships as a Maryland lacrosse player. And she spent 20 years at Under Armour and before bringing that experience to our team. So she looks very different than the 3 of us, but we're very similar in where we come from and how we approach life.
Going back to that 2018 moment, though, I think the biggest thing that we recognized is, one, the group that got us there was incredible. And it was by brute force, people that were just going to grind and literally do as we did. But there was a moment of if we want to get to where we're going, Jimmy, Jake, and Jordan can't be the ones that lead us. Like, we need to get people in that are smarter than us, that know things that we don't know. And that was actually really empowering to say, hey, like, let's go out and find the best that culturally will align with our values and our beliefs, but also can enhance what we don't know.
Yeah. But we also, I think the biggest thing to kind of wrap all this up was we brought on an ethics advisor to help us kind of codify our ethics statement and values really on how we wanted to grow the business over time. The Wall Street Journal actually did a piece on that.
I know. I love it. That's one of the reasons I was so interested in joining the team too.
Yeah.
So good for you guys.
And that's a defining document for us too. We still review it every quarterly town hall with the entire company. We're getting ready for our Q1 town hall coming up, and we'll go through it again. And it's just a great reminder. That's why it's so important for founders early on to get things on paper. Because you have, especially when you have 3 founders, there's a lot of ideals. We're very aligned just because we're brothers. We grew up in the same house, but there's a lot of ideals going on. And the business is changing so fast. So if you can get something on paper that early on about your values, your ethics, your vision, your purpose, those are going to be the things that in 5 years from now still hopefully hold true. They might tweak a little bit, but hopefully the core is still pretty similar.
Have other companies reached out and asked you about this and like how you did it? And hopefully, I'm hopeful that they are. This should be a Harvard business case study.
They don't ask about it. They ask how you guys did it, and then we tell them about these things because it gets overlooked. It really does get overlooked. Everybody just wants to know the fun, like you guys are on the front lines, you're hiring, you're doing all these things. But this is really the backbone, the infrastructure. Like, again, a lot of the systems, like the ethics, the values, the purpose, the mission, the vision. Like, these are the things that the team rallies around, and that's super true to us. So I think it comes up in every conversation, like what are some of the keys to success at Super Coffee? And it really comes down to our culture, which was built on this foundation that we put in place probably 2 or 3 years in.
Yeah, I think the unique thing, because every company has values and a mission statement, and it's some of it's just wallwood, right? Integrity, respect, responsibility, and like that was on the wall at was it Arlon, the company where they had all the fraud back in like the early 2000s? Exxon. Yeah. I mean, but like people say that, but what do they actually do to bring it to life? Yeah. And for us, it was less about like what are the right things or what is right. It's like what is important to us and who are we as individuals? Because like our culture is really an extension of the people who work here. And what we did, we turned it into something that is a sort of a catchy acronym. We call it COACH, and we call each other coaches. Like I'll say to anybody on our team, what's up, coach? And it stands for curious, optimistic, ambitious, compassionate, and humble. Right? And those are table stakes, right? Those aren't things that like, that's what we look for in the hiring process. Mm-hmm. And then in our quarterly evaluations, it's like, how well are we living up to these? Mm-hmm. Because we believe if you embody the coach principles, you're going to be successful at work and at home.
And the first one's curious.
Yeah, it's most important. But the way that we reinforce those two, I think, so it's not a plaque on the wall. We wear the coach bracelets as well. But every all hands call and really every department team call, we end with gratitude in the form of coach shout outs. So I'll say, hey, Amy Jo had a great example of being the ultimate coach. And here's 3 reasons how. She showed up on that podcast with the brothers, just being a total coach. And it's just a great way to lean into your values and saying, hey, we're living up to these. And then the opposite side, we also have a document, which was before we even integrated coach, which was called our commitment to trust. And it was just this 5-sentence document that said, hey, I am open to receiving feedback. I'm open to giving feedback. And here's how I'm going to do it. And that's also the opposite side of coaches, not only saying, hey, you're being a coach, but also you're not being a coach. And it really holds people accountable.
That's good. Last night at dinner, we were talking about The $1 Trillion Coach, right? Mm-hmm. And
great book.
What a good book. And who coaches you guys? Do you have a coach that works with the 3 of you?
We do.
How's that? What do those sessions sound like? Fill me in. Can I listen in?
Yeah, totally. No, it's our formal executive coach is Charlie Jones. We met him December of 2019. He coaches the Sweet Green founders who are Georgetown alums as well. So they turned us on to Charlie, and turns out Charlie went to Colgate, which was my alma mater. Yeah. And the thing about Charlie is he's truly a behaviorist, very high EQ. He just focuses on how people interact with each other and what do those relationships look like, because that's what coaching is. And for us, he challenges us. How do we show up as leaders, right? And there's this old quote that says, "No man is a hero to his valet," meaning like, no matter, you could be a king, a CEO, whatever, and to the kingdom, you'll look like this god, But when people get to know you intimately, they'll see your flaws. They'll see how human you are. And Charlie's working with us like on this concept of like respect is earned when nobody's watching, right? So what are we doing behind the scenes to truly live up to those values? Because it's easy to go on Instagram and say, hey, we're great. We're making donations. We're out here hustling. We're doing our thing. But behind the scenes, like what kind of people are we? And I think, the ultimate coaches were mom and dad sort of instilling that into us, but now Charlie's helping us polish it.
Yeah. And I think beyond Charlie and his leadership work, which is incredible for all three of us, we've also just built an incredible network of advisors, who want to help us and want to see us succeed. So some of the former executives from Starbucks, some former executives and founders within CPG. And we did that from day one. And I think that helped us learn a lot about the business, but also, operating, as a founder, because it is really stressful. It's really tough too. So there are just things that we learned because we had no clue what we were doing. But now to have a formal executive coach, I always like to say Charlie really is just a life coach for me too. Like he really just helped me be a better human being. Which is probably the most.
Which makes you a better leader,
exactly.
right? That's
100%.
Genesis.
And the three of us, we have 3-on-1 sessions with Charlie, but then we all have 1-on-1 sessions. And it's hilarious because you'll be on a 1-on-1 and you'll say something and then you'll just get from Charlie like and it's like, oh, like Jordan or Jim just talked about the same exact thing. And it's great because he can incorporate it all. But then on 3-on-1 sessions, which I think is great for any leadership team to do, is like you can we talk about commitment to trust and giving feedback. Like that's one of the forums where the three of us can actually like address something. And we're all so competitive and working on the same thing that we may not give Jake feedback or Jordan feedback when it's tough feedback or Jim. But when you're on that setting with your leadership coach, it's almost like you're in therapy. And
yeah,
like you can
totally.
Just be like, hey, safe place.
It's not going to fall off the rails, right? Like you've got a moderator there with you.
Yeah, which is great.
That's so smart that you guys do that. And then looking at, the pressure of the last year. So, you start getting calls early March and then was it March 17th? It sounds like was like a day.
Yeah.
And not only that, you've been raising a lot of money. You've got some big numbers to hit. You've put some big numbers on the board, but I can imagine that feeling of customer journey just changed overnight. Retail is like, what's going on here? So tell me about that day. And it sounds like there was an email. And the email circulates and you guys get on the phone. How did you navigate that?
Yeah. So it was pretty much exactly a year ago. Today's March 18th, 2021. And March 4th was a big day in our industry because Expo West was canceled. That was a pretty controversial decision. And then from there, things started to snowball. And if you remember back in March, like people weren't wearing masks yet. People didn't really know what was going on. Testing wasn't available anywhere. And a lot of what we do in our business, we spend time in grocery stores. So throughout the month of March, I was in stores in Philly and Boston. Jake was in the Pac Northwest. Jordan was in DC. And we were out there starting to see empty shelves. As the news got a little bit crazier around COVID, that's when this sort of surge in shopping came and people stocked up on toilet paper and water and soup and stuff. And we were like, wow, this isn't going to be a storm. This is going to be a long winter, this isn't going away anytime soon. And we saw that from the front lines because it's kind of, if you're sitting at home watching the news, it's polarizing, it's negative, it's worse than it is out in real life. And what we did, at the time we were 85 full-time people and we said to our team, it's like, hey, the supply chain needs us, right? We are an extension of the grocery industry and grocery store workers are calling out sick. Distributors aren't showing up to do their jobs. And we're like, look, we don't care if you stock super coffee. If you're going to work, if you're going to put a mask on and go to stores, help with whatever needs to be put out. And we gave the team, we were in a tough spot to your point, but we said to the team, we were like, nobody has to work. If you guys don't feel comfortable going in, let's talk about it and we'll figure out a solution. That said, we're not going to be able to pay full-time salaries if you choose not to go into stores. And it was a difficult decision that the team understood, and not one person took that option. Not one person said we're going to be furloughed.
Yeah. And our rally cry became like help the helpers, right? The people that are in stores, because that was part of the front lines as much as the healthcare workers were. It was like, especially March, April of 2020, it was like
they're essential workers.
Yeah.
Right? So
getting product out. It was crazy. And there's a moment that I'll never forget. We obviously are young, healthy guys. So like it wasn't as much us worried about health as it was just, the uncertainty. And it was March 17th. I had just flown into Portland, which was kind of ground zero. These guys were back running HQ, and they were getting ready to go on the trade that week. And we were talking at like 7 a.m. East Coast time. So it was eerily quiet at 4 a.m. in my hotel in Portland. And we're like, is this right? You know, and we have the team call. Jim addresses the team. Jordan addresses the team. And I was like scared, nervous. And then we got into like 3 stores. Like it was like a Target, a Walmart, and just working with the in-store team. And I called them. I was like, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Like this is
Your
right.
boots were on the ground and you saw it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I was like, hey, like help the helpers. And we didn't sell a single case of super coffee probably that week. And it was just water, Capri Sun,
and
toilet paper, Gatorade.
Capri Sun?
Yeah, a lot of Capri Sun.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know why. There's just pallets of,
pleasure.
there's a picture of us just putting Capri Sun on shelves.
I love it. Wow.
Yeah, and I think
That's huge.
the thing for our business too, I mean, it gave us an opportunity as young founders and leaders to really lean into our values and our purpose and our mission. I mean, we talk about our mission is mass produce positive energy. What better time in human history than to try to live up to that mission? We talk about these values of being optimistic, being curious, right? You're trying to do things in a new way that have never been done before. And then being compassionate, and just helping people no matter what. And then also being humble too. Like we just got, punched in the face, right? Like we just got completely, demoralized, knocked out, but we could make a decision like, hey, like, are we going to let this knock us out? Or how are we going to face this? And I think that everybody rallied around that on the team.
And imagine the impact, the compound impact over time with that moment where you made certain steps and your partners, like pushing them up the loyalty ladder. So like, we've got your back. We'll literally bring the water out and like, this, no ego. And also your team, right? To talk about purpose. They'll never forget that either. They're always going to think of the company that I work for, stepping up and actually making a decision that probably wasn't easy or popular.
No,
we want to protect them, but at the same time,
we were getting criticism from other brands within our space. Like, what are you guys doing? Super coffee is not essential. And it's like, hey, like, it's not super coffee. Like the grocery store, our distributors, like they're the ones bringing the water. They're the ones bringing the beer. Like it's not about selling, but Jim was getting like people on LinkedIn, like, because we were celebrating it, it was like, hey, like, look at what our team is doing. And there are people like, what your team is doing is wrong. Like you guys are spreading COVID. And we're like, that's not it at all. And I think that was probably the hardest part, was like monitoring our team's safety, and making them, and it was more the physical safety was one part, but then like the psychological of like, hey, like we are asking you to go to work throughout all this, and obviously no vaccines. It was just like masks.
Right. We didn't even know anything.
Yeah.
Right. We really didn't. So, okay. So let's talk about, that hustle factor and how it's in your bones. Clearly that's your DNA. This is a crazy ride that you guys are on, right? And you're just what you've done already is unmatched, but it's continuing, right? Let's talk about the future. And pace and sustainability as founders. As an entrepreneur myself, I know I've hit times where I felt like I was on a rocket ship and just hit it too hard and ended up burning out. Do you have those moments, and what do you do when you have them?
Yeah. And I mean, we've always been of this mindset of like, we can work through anything, it's just pain or it's just discomfort or it's just different. Like it's just hard, but we can do it. It's all mental. Right. And I think there's no task too tall or like me, especially, I'm like, put the weight of the world on my shoulders. I got this. And like, maybe that's just was a naive 20-something-year-old, but now it sort of comes to life in very real, like physical feelings. And it's not just like a bad day. It's like, wow, I feel worn out. I'm running on empty. I mean, I called these guys in tears a few weeks ago saying like, fellas, like, I'm not well right now, and it just catches up to you, right? Cause like your mind, like my will is still there. And it's like, I want to keep doing this, but my energy, my motivation, my focus is like, no matter how hard I tried, I just don't feel well. So I think Jordan, it's funny, my youngest brother, I've looked up to him when it comes to wellness and meditation and stuff. So like really building in that active rest, that active play, that active pause. And it's so hard because like when you feel good, when you're motivated, like if I have a good day, I'll use every ounce of energy that I have, whether it's at the gym or at the office till late. And then the next day I'm drained. So like on those good days, how can I press pause? How can I take time for myself? How can I eat well?
Yeah. We like to say since day one, it's kind of like sprinting a marathon. In a way.
Exhausting.
And that's how you feel. And I think where we've gotten, and again, I mentioned early on, it was physically hard work every single day. And we really didn't have a choice. And then I think that kind of got ingrained into us. But at a certain point too, we realized as we could hire more people, it took some of that workload off us, but then we kind of made up for that in other areas. We started traveling more to go see different partners across the country. And I think we realized that it just wasn't sustainable and you needed to find some level of equanimity, on a daily basis with yourself, because it really is a battle with yourself mentally as a founder. And I think that's where I've kind of found, just the most peace with myself and my involvement, like obviously still working as hard as I can and giving as much as I can to the company, but not doing it, to a point where, could have negative effects on, my performance in the long run. And I think that it's been super important for me to share that even with my team, especially over the past year. Like we started doing mandatory half days for people. We announced unlimited PTO for people, cause our team was a bunch of workaholics. We needed them to know that we needed to do something very different to get them to understand we need you to take breaks because we don't want people burning out. But we also realized that we couldn't just say that and do those things. We needed to live up to those things ourselves
and show people.
And show people and lead by example.
I think that is one of the biggest downfalls of being hyper competitive and having that athletic background, because athletics is a finite game, right? Like you have first quarter, second quarter, halftime, push through, fourth quarter, win the game over. And then you have rest and then another game, then halfway through the season. Business is an infinite game, right? Like there's no beginning, middle, end to this. And that's something
you can't really win.
Yeah, you can't really win. There's no all-star break. Like you don't get to recharge. So I think building that in daily is something that you need to do. And then a Ray Dalio quote that I think has really helped the three of us is like, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. Yeah. And that is something, if you can understand that and really know what you're trying to go after, that alone kind of sets you free a little bit versus like, hey, and Jordan's probably laughing inside because every day we're talking about doing something new and trying to do everything. But like that idea, I think really can help. Like, I don't need to be everything for everybody. I just need to be really specific. And, when I need to take a break, it's okay to do that.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm hopping in here to tell you about a new discovery of mine. I'm in love, and let me tell you, I've fallen hard. We all like our caffeine in the morning. I look forward to that first, second, and fifth cup of coffee in the morning, but now I exclusively drink Super Coffee. I'm such a fan that I actually invested in the company, the team, and their culture. The love for what I do every day makes me jump out of bed in the morning, but Super Coffee truly fuels that fire. It's fueled with positive energy, from the ingredients they use to their brand promise. Super Coffee removes the negatives like sugar and adds the positives like MCT oil and protein so that you can maximize your day. I have an embarrassing secret. I used to be addicted to diet soda. I'd roll out of bed and pop open a can before my eyes were even fully open. I had never been a huge coffee drinker, but when I gave up diet soda on July 12th, 2015, yes, the moment deserves an anniversary. It was a big deal. I needed another caffeine source at that point. For me, that meant coffee with lots of artificial sweeteners, with crazy ingredients I can't pronounce that made me crash by 2 p.m. or so. Well, not anymore. Super Coffee is different. As I mentioned, there's no added sugar, and some of the flavors I love have 10 grams of plant protein. Now, I'm not a big meat eater, so this really helps, and they've just added a few new flavors to their plant-based offering, like French vanilla and sweet cream. They only use ingredients that are great tasting, great for you, and sustain you for the long haul. Nothing shady, only positives. The taste is delish, I can tell you. Take it from someone who needs that extra flavor to enjoy the taste of coffee. And Super Coffee also comes in ground coffee, Keurig pods, creamers, and more on their website, drinksupercoffee.com. One of the things my team and I love most is that on drinksupercoffee.com, you can shop Super Coffee's wide variety of products based on your dietary needs, including gluten-free, plant-based, Whole30, keto, or even vegan, right there on their website. There's something for everyone. While you're on the site, go ahead and stock up because Super Coffee is hooking up Why Not Now listeners with a 25% discount. Head to supercoffee.com and use the code Why Not Now for your 25% discount on all products. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works again for all products. Just use Why Not Now as your code, all one word. There are no restrictions. I'm an investor in Super Coffee because the founders truly do walk the talk. Yes, their coffee provides positive energy, but so does their company culture. Their founders are three brothers who share a work hard and be nice to people mentality, and they spread that throughout their culture at Super Coffee. They know the importance of having diverse perspectives at the leadership level, and you know I'm a fan of elevating women in leadership. In fact, one of my Renegade Accelerator grads, Jamie Christ, is one of those women. So once that positive energy arrives on your doorstep, hit me up on social at Amy Jo Martin and show me what flavors and products you went with. And bonus points if you try one of their seasonal blends. The company is growing quickly, and you'll probably start noticing Super Coffee in your local Walmart, Target, or Costco. They are now in over 30,000 retailers nationwide. To take advantage of your exclusive 25% discount, head to drinksupercoffee.com and enter Why Not Now at checkout. That's Why Not Now, all one word. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works for all products, no restrictions.
It's so important. Thank you for sharing that. I think we romanticize entrepreneurship oftentimes, and we hear the amazing parts, but it's not for the faint of heart, right?
Totally.
You gotta have some tough skin too. So that's important to what you said about your team, being able to share that with them, being vulnerable and having them know, hey, we all have to take breaks every once in a while. Like the fact that you were willing to share that, you called your brothers and you were like, hey, I'm not in a good spot. How empowering for them to know that, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the fact that there isn't any added sugar in this.
Oh, yeah.
It tastes so good. So I think you knew this, Jimmy, but I used to have a bit of an addiction to diet soda. And so when I stopped, I'd wake up and pop a can open. It's bad news bears. I know. But in July of 2015, I did give it up and I switched over to coffee in the morning.
Nice.
But well, there's a caveat. Of course, I had all these creamers, but then I wanted sugar-free. Mm-hmm. And then this is just, I'm seeing the ingredients on the back of the bottle and I don't even know how to pronounce them. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I love so much is that I still get that good taste and the amount of protein. Mm-hmm. But the sugar, talk to me about how much sugar you've been able to extract from the shelves and just from people.
Yeah. So all of our products are sugar-free. And one metric that we started translating a couple of years ago is if for every bottle of Super Coffee sold, that's one less bottle of the Starbucks Frappuccino, which has 45 grams of sugar in it. How much sugar are we removing? And so far over the last 5 years, we've removed 4 million pounds of sugar. And this year alone, 2021, our goal is to remove 5 million pounds in this calendar year.
So you have 9 now.
Yeah, 9 total. And still keeping track of it. We're starting to get other brands involved in the mission too of like, how big can this impact truly be? But the cool thing is like, what we'd like to say is like, not only do we remove the negatives, in this case, sugar, we add the positives, MCT oil, protein, like on a literal basis. But now we're taking it a step further and we're like, what can we do with all this sugar we remove? It's literally the equivalent of like hundreds of dump truck loads or swimming pools filled with sugar. And we found this study at MIT, these students at MIT figured out how to convert sugar into electricity. So now we're like, whoa.
MIT.
Yeah, totally. So now it's like, how do we take the sugar that we've removed and turn it into something cool, right? Like powering a COVID vaccination center or powering the lights in a studio. Yeah. Or powering an electric vehicle that delivers super coffee. So we're really excited about that. And we got a cool summer campaign coming up where we can figure out how to bring that to life.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's exciting. Like there are no limits to your imagination when you start thinking about that and creating an ecosystem that starts feeding itself to a certain extent too.
Totally.
And most people, I would have never known that. Like you could take sugar and use it. Makes sense. That someone's going to figure it out. But now that we know that, it's fascinating to think of what else is possible. Because if you're encouraging other brands to think similarly, what ingredients are you taking out that you could put in a different way?
And it's funny because that's the exact question we ask too when we're thinking about products. Like it's truly for us where purpose meets product is, because we talk about adding positive energy, that starts with removing negatives first. So we always looked at, one, if there's 45 grams of sugar in a Starbucks Frappuccino and we want to play in the same category, we need to have 0. So let's start there. If they're going to use artificial flavors, colors, things like that, we're going to go obviously organic, all natural as best as we can. And then we can add positives, protein, MCT oil, things that are going to make you feel better, be more functional. And that's truly guided our strategy from day one. And we constantly iterate because the main thing is, okay, you do that. Now, how do you make it taste amazing and have it be as affordable and as accessible?
It's not easy.
And those are the types of challenges that we face and struggle with.
Well, and I think that is the biggest challenge. Our brand has come a long way, but we just launched a mega launch nationally at Walmart, and we're spending a ton more time in Walmart now. And you're just in those stores. And you're like, holy cow! Like this place is loaded with sugar and artificial ingredients, and everything is 50 cents to 99 cents. And
we love you, Walmart. Though.
Yeah, we do love you, Walmart. No, but
we're getting better.
I think that it's for folks like us, it's like getting out of that Whole Foods mindset, right? And there is better for you stuff out there, but who's it available to?
To be attainable.
Yeah, to be attainable. And granted, we make products like the one on the table that are plant-based and they're a little bit more premium. But having affordable options for the average American, I think is, just to your point about thinking what is achievable, is where our whole industry needs to go, which is super exciting.
And others. I think you could lead for other categories too, right? I mean, you see really cool stuff happening with shoes and footwear and, ocean plastic, whatever. But this is for food and beverage. It's huge. I hope I'm excited for that story to be told more.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll become contagious and then the consumers will start demanding it.
Totally.
Right? And that'll drive a lot. So as far as I want to talk about ego a little bit. So you're all, competitive. How do you keep that in check? How do you keep your egos in check personally, as well as you've had some amazing success too. How do you keep that humble? Was it the H in coach, just on your radar?
Yeah, I think for us, it goes back to this player coach mentality where one thing, we always knew that we didn't know everything. We didn't know most things when it came to this industry, and we weren't afraid to ask for help. I think that's naturally a pretty humble approach to the business. And it wasn't like we were intentionally trying to be humble. It was like, please help us. Please teach us how to do this. We need to, and we positioned ourselves as the players, and all of these successful entrepreneurs who have come before us were like, I like these guys. Let me help them out, right? Or let me give them a bit of knowledge that they can run with. And then I think the other piece to it, for me at least, comes back to imposter syndrome, right? Like whether we're going on Shark Tank or Forbes 30 under 30 or raising money or doing any of the cool stuff we've had the privilege of doing, like I'll sometimes look in the mirror and be like, what are you doing here, kid? Like,
you're going to find out you don't know what you're doing.
Right. Like, geez, people are going to figure it out that you're insecure, you're uncomfortable about all this stuff. And at the same time, those types of insecurities, I think, are what makes us great. Like, it's what drives us forward to be better every day.
Yeah.
Human. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing of ego or keeping ego in check is giving gratitude. Like that is almost the easiest way to stay balanced is like, if you're giving gratitude to the people that are doing it with you, it really lets you know that like, wow, we did $50 million in sales. Jake, you're the chief revenue officer. Like you give gratitude to the people, every single person that helps you do that. That's not you hitting the $50 million in sales. That's the whole team. Mm-hmm. And that just giving gratitude and the best thing about giving gratitude is you can't do it too much. You can give gratitude every single day to the people supporting you or how it's getting done. And even to the people in your life. I think that's something that people forget about is like, it doesn't need to be gratitude to the person that assisted you the basket. Just the person that was clapping for you, right? Yeah. Like your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, just like thanking people really keeps your ego in check.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I remember Garth Brooks accepted an award recently and he looked into the audience and he said, "Thank you for my life." And I was just like, boom, this guy gets it. He knows who's the boss. Like those are your customers that gave you this life. It's cool.
Yeah, and a lot of our advisors too, we surrounded ourselves, again, I mentioned some former executives from Starbucks, and some of the principles that they adapted really early on was servant leadership. And that's something that we've tried to take very seriously, which is really serving others first. And, the higher up in the organization you are, the more you make winning about others, right? Not about yourself, which is the opposite when you come from an athletic background in a sense. Like obviously it's a team sport, team game. But, growing up, we were kind of taught to focus on your own stats too. Like your stats matter.
Oh, yeah.
But now I think we're learning, one, you have to be super aware and just conscious of your ego because it is always present. And two, realize that like it will have a negative effect on the business and on your team. Like it might make you feel good in the moment, right? If you're taking credit for something. But, to Jake's point, if you're giving credit, you're going to lift the team up. Everybody's going to feel better. And in the long run, you're kind of creating this leadership. We like to say, like, if you're playing into your ego, that's leadership debt. In the long run, you're creating. You're going to have to pay that debt. You're going to have to pay that debt in the future. In the form of, your team's just going to be like, look, nobody wants to work for somebody who's going to take credit for everything or not give credit where credit's due. And I think it comes down to recognizing your ego, understanding it's okay to be there. But ultimately getting around it and not letting it impact your goals and what you want to achieve as a leader.
And to add on to that too, I think one of the most beautiful things about having a culture of gratitude is it comes back around, and we all want to be told good job. Even the three founders want to be told good job, and we get told good job, but because everyone is saying like, hey, thank you for the assist. Thank you for coming down to Austin and blitzing the market with us. So I think that is really important. And that, going back to the life side, surrounding yourself with people who support you, because if you do have people recognizing what you're doing, you don't need to recognize it yourself, and having just that support system that truly is your biggest fans and rooting for you does help keep your ego in check versus surrounding yourself with people where it's like a pounding on your chest type environment of oh, I'm bigger and faster and stronger than you. It's that's just toxic. Leadership debt, I think that really ties back into that as well.
That's good. Couple of rapid fire questions for you.
Ooh.
Hot seat. You ready for this?
Shoot.
This is the gotcha moment.
Yeah, this is the gotcha. Be ready. Be on your toes. Pirates or ninjas? Who's tougher and why?
Ooh, pirates are tougher because they
live on a boat.
Yeah, they live on a boat. That's right. That's it. They live on the open sea.
Okay. Because they live on a boat? That's fair. That's fair.
It's a tough life.
Okay. Same question?
Same question.
Can you repeat it? So I have
pirates or ninjas. Who's tougher and why?
Ninjas.
Tougher, not who's going to win.
Ninjas because they have more discipline.
Okay. I thought you might go that route. I feel like I'm kind of getting to that. You're like the baby Buddha over here.
Pirates, because they literally live in the middle of the tough. There's nothing tougher than waking up in the middle of a storm in the middle of the ocean. Right? That's horrible.
I love that. That's good. What's something recently that you read that it doesn't have to be a book, it could be whatever, or heard that you're just like, wow, that was profound?
anything by Ryan Holiday. I love. He's just digging up
local
all
to
these.
Austin.
Yeah. He's digging up all kinds of Stoic quotes from 2,000 years ago that are totally relevant today. One of them for me that hit is this Latin phrase called festina lente, make haste slowly. So it's a bit of an oxymoron, right? Like I'm trying to move pretty quickly, like haste makes waste type thing, but just do it intentionally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
What You Do Is Who You Are by Ben Horowitz. It's a book on culture, but he pulls a bunch of incredible century-old. He actually uses the samurai as a great example of incredible culture and just what they distilled, because they had these virtues that they lived up to, but just how that ties into founders and starting a company. And like, if you're gonna have values, make them virtues, things that you actually do, and infuse them into the culture. So highly recommend that one for sure.
That's good.
I'm going to take you up on the not book option.
Fair enough.
Something profound that I read daily are texts from my girlfriend. And in the best way, like it definitely sets you outside of the world of entrepreneurship and running a big business of just like, you know, people are still people. And like the questions of who should we raise $40 million from, other people are like, what color should I get my nails done? You know, and like honestly, like that is such a good balance.
Like
and that is
contrast,
so, yeah, that contrast. And it reminds you of like what's like, everyone has their own unique issues and problems going on. So I think that's something daily profound that I get from Ansley.
That right there is how you get out of relationship debt.
You got leadership debt and relationship debt. I love it. Would you like to double down and say something too about your text messages?
Yeah, I get
Because we can't leave anybody out.
the best text messages every morning throughout the day. It's amazing. I love my girlfriend.
I'm going to triple down. Ladies, I'm single. You can text me if you want to. My line is available.
And on Instagram, you are?
Oh, I'm Jimmy DeCicco 5. That's right.
I love it. Okay, so real quick, let's talk about this year, and then we'll wrap up with one final question. So as an investor, I'm a little privy to how your business is going, but can you share, you know, here we're coming out of a pandemic. Your goal is to triple the business. You doubled it. I mean, that's amazing. But this year and where you are with fundraising and just some of the goals and numbers you want to put on the board, would you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, happy to. Oh, just to run through the last couple of years, I guess, like 2018, we did $4.5 million in sales, and that was a big year for us. That was the year we went on Shark Tank. 2019, we came out, we did 25 million. So 4.5 to 20, really 26. And then 2020, we had really high hopes, right? We wanted to go from 26 to 75, crush it. COVID hits. We go from 26 to 55, which we doubled the business in a pandemic. We ended up burning way more cash than we planned to, kept the team in place, raised the Series B. And then this year, our plan is to go from 55 million to 95 million. So hopefully can tip the scale at that $100 million in sales mark. And we're raising a Series C this summer. So we'll be raising probably $40 million round, which will bring our all-time capital to $100 million raised, which is a crazy thing to think about. So a couple things. One, we're building our dreams with other people's money, right? This would not be possible without our investors and who really accelerated the growth. And then two, I always say, like, don't measure a business by how much money it's raised, measure it about how, like, what it does with that money. So we're still not profitable, but the plan is to grow quicker at the expense of profitability, as long as the business fundamentals are there. Gross margin, profitability, planned profitability, all that.
Yeah. And then another big thing forward looking is in 2020, we signed an exclusive distribution agreement with Anheuser-Busch.
That's huge.
The largest beer distributor in the world. And we're integrating their team, their systems into our team. And obviously we're a health and wellness coffee brand, getting beer guys to care about it. And I think it's probably been one of the most exciting, challenging things that we've ever done. Yeah. But now the level of optimism, getting them to buy in to that is extraordinary. And they've built some great non-alcoholic brands. They were there for Monster Energy and then even recently Bang Energy. Both of those brands ended up leaving their distribution system though. And I think Super Coffee having a formal alignment, they are investors and owners in our business. And they're like, shoot, we can build this now long-term. Mm-hmm. And when you can take the scale of an Anheuser-Busch, AB InBev, to what our team brings to the table with a Super Coffee, we can achieve some really exciting things. So that is summer 2021 with Anheuser-Busch is going to be something special.
Yeah. And we're still not out of the pandemic yet, but February was a record-breaking month for us. March will be a record-breaking month for us. And, generally Q1 is, a fraction of what you can do over the summer with our business. It is seasonal. We do have some new seasonal products coming out too. So we're expanding the portfolio a little bit more this year. We launched our plant-based line, and extended that. So a lot of cool, exciting things where we made those decisions in the middle of the pandemic. Like a lot of the things we're seeing now, those are tough decisions. Like a lot of brands are pulling innovation. We wanted to double down on the things we were doing because we had a feeling that if we kept the team together, yes, it'd be hard times now, but we'd come out of it, hopefully, as things started to open up, stronger than we came into it.
Amazing. Yeah. And you're, not to name drop, but on your cap table, you've got Ajo and you've got J-Lo too.
Let's go.
So I'm a big fan of getting more women on the cap table, not just a seat at the table, but you also have some incredible leaders with Tori and Jamie and, is it Annalise? Am I saying that? Annalena, who is just a badass as well.
Totally.
So, and we have to make a shout out to Baron Davis.
What up, BD?
What up, BD? In the building. You are. Kind of everywhere all the time. So it's pretty incredible though. So J-Lo and A-Rod got in last year, right?
Yep.
And, there's some big names. Yeah.
Totally. And it's cool to see, because remember in those early days, like we didn't have anything. We were just pitching people on ourselves. And now the fact that folks like you and Baron Davis and J-Lo and A-Rod and awesome entrepreneurs and executives are believing in the mission and buying in and seeing a better future has been one of the coolest, most rewarding parts of this. It's like now it's you got momentum, right? You got people behind it. It's becoming a movement. And we just got to keep that movement moving.
That's amazing. And the cultural innovation with beer guys and an alcohol, distributor buying in and starting to distribute positive energy and less sugar and turning sugar into electricity and these things, it's pretty exciting. It's an innovation brand, really.
Totally.
So, yeah.
The world is, go ahead.
That just goes back to hustle though, right? Like the mission only works if you do. And I think that, again, that's any of those people from Anheuser-Busch to J-Lo and A-Rod, right? Like they want to feel the positive energy, not just hear us preach it, and it showing up in all forms of what you do. What you do is who you are.
That's right.
What you do is who you are. So final question here. If we were to go back to the day where you thought that it was just going to be you and Jake, and then you all of a sudden, wait, your mom's calling and saying Jimmy's actually jumped too. And you could say to yourselves in those individual moments, you're leaving Wall Street, you've got your scholarship, Jordan, and if you could go say something to yourself, what would you say?
I would just remind, or I guess at that point in time, just tell myself to stay true to the purpose and why you're doing it. It's pretty easy to lose focus and see some shiny objects and things like that. But if you stay true to your core throughout the entire journey, you're going to have a hell of a lot better time. And hopefully you can make a bigger impact too if you stay true to it. But if you kind of get caught off guard or maybe lose focus of that, then that's where you might find yourself getting in trouble or maybe burnout or experiencing other issues. So it's just staying true to your core throughout the entire experience.
Totally. Amazing. Yeah, I would say I was 22 when we got this thing going. I'd say to that kid, like, you got this, and because back then it's easy to look up at all these crazy entrepreneurs and businesses and be like, dang, they got something we don't have, or they got something I don't have. And kind of goes back to the imposter syndrome, but anybody who's willing to start a business, just believe in yourself. You're no different than the other people who have done it before you. It's going to be very uncomfortable and very difficult, but if you're willing to put in the time, you can create the person that you want to become. And, I think I just wish I had a bit more confidence in myself back then.
Interesting.
Yeah. I would just say progress, not perfection, like shoot for progress every day and be willing to make mistakes, because I think that is probably the biggest fear is like, hey, we're going to do this. And how do we become perfect, or how do we build the best business? And it's like 22-year-old Jake, don't worry about building the best business. Just worry about being better tomorrow than you were today. And I think that is probably the biggest fear when you're launching something is like, how do we get 100% better, not 2% better? And that's something that would have been probably helpful in the early days to understand.
Yeah. Such a good point. Yeah. Well, this has been such a fun conversation, and just being a part of the crew and a part of this ride is a blast. So thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom, and we'll do it again.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no, welcome
Amy
to
Jo.
the team. Yeah,
Super Amy Jo.
Super Amy Jo.
That's right.
That's it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?